Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Fong, and I'm an English professor at Kalamazoo College in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I'm here today to talk to you about Barnaby Rudge, which I understand you're just finishing up with reading. The first thing I want to say is congratulations for reading it. To read any Dickens novel, and any Victorian novel for that matter, is a huge achievement, and to read this particular novel deserves special recognition indeed. What I'd like to talk to you about today is the question of history, and how this novel might help us open up a greater understanding of how human beings remember and construct events of the past. Barnaby Rudge is a special novel, and it's special because it is a work of historical fiction, which means that it takes inspiration from real events in the historical past, and in this case, from events that happened in the late 18th century. It's also a special novel among all of Dickens's works, in the sense that it is his first historical novel, and he would go on to write only one other one, which was A Tale of Two Cities. Significantly, in both of these texts, the central moments of history that they're interested in is moments of violent upheaval. As such, they help us think about the nature of violence and its role in historical change. For Barnaby Rudge in particular, Dickens was interested in depicting the events that came to be known as the Gordon Riots. And I'm sure you spent some time thinking about the background and learning about the background of these events in your class. For today, though, what I want us to think about together is the meaning and implication of the specific word riot, and to think about what this specific word does in constructing a very particular understanding of events of violent upheaval. I'm sure that the term riot is one that you've heard before and that you have some familiarity with, and as such it has a lot of weight and sets of associations and connotations that already come with it. The philosopher and activist Grace Lee Boggs writes about riots and stresses the importance of distinguishing them from what she calls rebellions or uprisings. For her, both kinds of events can include the destruction of property and the inflicting of harm on other people in creating scenes of large public disturbance. But for her, a riot is about the assertion of power of one group over another. So a riot is about a powerful group seeking to keep an oppressed group in what they perceive to be their rightful place. Events that often get called riots are events that Grace Lee Boggs would prefer to call rebellions or uprisings. And really they're just that, a rising up and a standing up for oneself that uses violence against structures and institutions that are perceived to be violent. For her, it is conducted by a group of oppressed people expressing righteous outrage when they have no other means of representation or having their voice heard. With this definition in mind, I would ask you to think about the events in Barnaby Rudge. Is it right to call these events a riot in the definitions that Grace Lee Boggs sets out? Why or why not? What does Dickens's novel help us see or understand about this distinction that she draws between a riot and a rebellion? I'd also encourage you to compare these events in the novel to famous events that took place in your home in Los Angeles in 1943, in 1967, and in 1992. If you're especially curious, you might look at other historical examples in the United States and beyond. Seattle in 1886, Chicago in 1919, Detroit in both 1943 and 1967, Soweto, South Africa in 1976, and Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. Which of these events would Grace Lee Boggs call riots? And which of these events would she refer to as rebellions? And how might Dickens depict or understand these based on what you know about him from Barnaby Rudge? In exploring these questions, we can not only understand this novel and the past that it constructs in a deeper way, but we can understand how all historical narratives operate as stories, as narratives, and how the language that we use to characterize past events tells us just as much, if not more, about the teller as it does about the events that are being described and depicted. Congratulations again, and happy reading and discussing.